The ground shakes, not from marching feet, from something heavier, slower, relentless. A shield crashes into another. Bronze screams. Men shout, but the words don't matter anymore. Someone drops to one knee. Another turns too late. The air is thick, hot, hard to breathe. Orders are being shouted, but they overlap. Confuse. Contradict. A line that was unbreakable seconds ago bends. Not collapses. Bends. Eyes search for a signal. A horn. A flag. Anything. Nothing comes. Somewhere in the chaos, a voice yells a name. It isn't answered. The enemy is close now, too close to count. Too close to escape. Too close to think. A shield slips from a sweating hand. It hits the ground with a sound that feels louder than the battle itself. Men hesitate. Only for a heartbeat. But it's enough. Because Spartans are trained never to hesitate. And yet here they are. Surrounded by dust, noise, fear, and the memory of a promise made years ago. A promise carved into their bones. A promise that began with 300 men who never came home. This moment was never supposed to happen like this. This war was supposed to be over. The sacrifice already paid. So why are 10,000 Spartans standing here now? Why does the ground feel unfamiliar beneath their feet? And why, after everything that happened before, does this feel like the beginning, not the end? To understand this moment, we have to step back, not to a victory, but to a wound that never healed. The year is 479 BCE. Greece is technically still standing, but only just. Cities are burned. Temples lie in ash. Entire populations have fled into hills, forests, or exile. The Persian Empire, vast, organized, and relentless, has already proven it can reach deep into Greek territory. What began as a punitive expedition has become something much larger, a test of survival. Thermopylae happened 1 year earlier. 300 Spartans. A narrow pass. A stand that delayed the impossible. The story spread fast, across cities, across islands, across generations. Not because it was a victory, but because it was. Sparta lost its king. Greece lost its illusion of safety. Now, everything depends on what happens next. The Persians still occupy much of the land. Their army is massive, disciplined, and supplied by an empire that stretches farther than any Greek has ever traveled. Their fleet dominates the seas. Their commanders believe resistance is already broken. But something has changed. Greek city-states that once argued, delayed, or refused to help are now sending men, not because they trust each other, but because they are afraid. The chosen ground is Plataea. A wide plain. Open. Exposed. No narrow pass this time. No cliffs to protect a smaller force. This battlefield demands numbers, coordination, absolute discipline. And Sparta responds not with hundreds, but with thousands. 10,000 Spartans. Each trained since childhood. Each bound by laws that allow no retreat. They are joined by allies from Athens, Corinth, Tegea, and others. A coalition formed not by unity, but necessity. The tension is unbearable. Supplies are limited. Water sources are vulnerable. Every movement is watched. Both sides wait. Days pass with no attack. Nights bring no relief. Scouts report movements, but nothing certain. Messengers ride back with fragments of information. Rumors grow louder than facts. No one knows who will strike first. Or when. And beneath everything, beneath the armor, the formations, the strategy, is a single unspoken truth. This battle will decide whether Thermopylae was a noble sacrifice or a meaningless one. The Spartan soldier, is not made on the battlefield. He is made long before it. From the age of 7, Spartan boys are taken from their families and placed into the agoge, a system designed not to educate, but to harden. Hunger is intentional. Pain is routine. Silence is enforced. They learn to move as a unit, to obey without hesitation, to endure without complaint. By adulthood, fear is not something they lack. It is something they have learned to control. The men standing at Plataea are veterans. Some fought at Thermopylae. Others trained under those who did. They wake before dawn, inspect armor in silence, eat sparingly. No one talks about home. No one talks about the past year. Spartan law discourages questions, encourages certainty. Orders are absolute. Failure is punished. Retreat is dishonor. Every man knows his place in the formation. Every shield overlaps another. Emotion is allowed, but only inward. And yet something feels wrong. The waiting stretches longer than expected. The enemy does not behave as predicted. Whispers pass between ranks at night. Not fear, something quieter. Uncertainty. Spartan commanders meet often. Messages are sent. Plans adjusted. The men notice. They always do. A soldier sharpens his spear longer than necessary. Another checks his helmet strap again and again. These are not mistakes. They are habits under stress. Still, discipline holds, because Spartans believe one thing above all else. If the line holds, the world holds. What none of them know, what no training can prepare them for, is that discipline alone may not be enough this time. The first sign is silence. Scouts are sent out before dawn. They return late, with less information than expected. Water carriers report movement near supply routes, then retract their statements. Signals from Allied units arrive out of sequence. Some don't arrive at all. At night, distant sounds carry across the plain. Metal. Movement. Then nothing. No attack follows. The Persians wait. Spartan commanders shift positions slightly, small changes meant to be unnoticed. But the men feel it. Lines move. Formations tighten. No explanation is given. Then comes the order that makes no sense. A repositioning. Under cover of darkness. Spartans don't like the dark. Someone trips. A shield knocks against armor. The sound echoes farther than it should. Still no attack. By morning, something is wrong. Units are no longer where they expected to be. Water is harder to reach. Messengers run longer routes. No one says it out loud, but everyone feels it. They are no longer fully in control of the battlefield. It begins without a signal. No horn. No shout. Just movement. Dust rises ahead. Then more. Shields lock instinctively. Spears lower. Commands overlap. Some clear. Some lost. The enemy advances, not all at once, but in waves. Sound becomes everything. Feet. Breath. Metal striking metal. The line holds at first. Then pressure builds. Not a collapse. A compression. Men are pushed closer together. Space disappears. Someone falls. He is lifted. Then lost again. Vision narrows. Orders can't reach the rear. The rear can't see the front. Time stretches. Moments blur. Then quiet. Not peace. Absence. The noise pulls away as suddenly as it came. Dust hangs in the air. Shapes move, then stop. When the sun climbs higher, the battlefield looks unfinished. No clear victory. No clear defeat. Only men standing where others should be. And others simply gone. When the noise finally dies, the battlefield does not feel victorious. It feels unfinished. The first command is not pursuit. It is accounting. Officers move through the ranks, stopping men one by one. Names are spoken. Hands are raised. Too many pauses follow the questions. Some soldiers answer immediately. Others look around first, confused, as if expecting someone else to respond. The numbers do not align. Entire sections are incomplete. Not shattered. Not destroyed. Just missing. Spartan commanders request reports from Allied contingents. The answers come back uneven. One unit claims it advanced farther than ordered. Another insists it never moved at all. Timelines overlap where they shouldn't. Gaps appear where no gaps should exist. Search parties are formed. They move slowly, deliberately across the plain. Not charging. Not calling out. They find shields without owners. Spears driven into the ground at strange angles. Helmets placed carefully, as if removed rather than lost. There are no clear trails leading away from the field. No mass retreat. No obvious pursuit route. Just scattered signs of movement that stop abruptly. Messengers are sent to check nearby hill and supply routes. They return with nothing conclusive. No prisoners. No signals of capture. No bodies where bodies should be. By nightfall, commanders order a halt to searching. Officially, it is for safety. Unofficially, no one can explain what they are looking for anymore. The next day, interrogations begin. Not of enemies, but of their own. Soldiers are questioned separately. Asked to repeat the same moments again and again. Descriptions don't match. Some recall advancing. Others swear they were holding position. A few describe hearing commands that no one else admits issuing. Those details are quietly dismissed. Written reports are collected, then rewritten. Certain phrases disappear. Specific times are rounded off. Precise locations become vague references. By the third revision, the story sounds smoother. Cleaner. Too clean. A formal dispatch is prepared for the Allied Council. It lists losses. It describes confusion. It emphasizes eventual success. It does not explain absences. When the war ends and records are archived, the incident is reduced to a paragraph. Then a sentence. Then a footnote. Later historians will notice something odd. The numbers don't match earlier troop counts. Certain Spartan units are never mentioned again. Commanders involved fade from later campaigns. No memorial is built for them. No songs mention their names. And in Sparta, where remembrance is sacred, silence settles instead. Whether by choice or necessity, the truth is sealed. Not erased. Just never finished. Because some answers once written cannot be unwritten. And whatever happened on that plain left behind more questions than history was willing to keep. When official records fall silent, theories take their place. Not rumors. Not myths. But structured attempts to explain what history refuses to clarify. The first theory is the most acceptable one. According to this explanation, the incident was the result of a rare but catastrophic failure in coordination. The Spartans were ordered to reposition during the night, something they rarely did and deeply distrusted. Units moved at different speeds. Distances were misjudged. Signals were misunderstood. When contact occurred, parts of the army were no longer where commanders believed them to be. In this version, confusion, not the enemy, caused the disappearances. Supporters of this theory point to fragmented timelines and conflicting testimonies. They argue that in the darkness, order dissolved just long enough for chaos to take over. But there is a problem. Spartan doctrine was built to survive confusion. Their formations were redundant, their command structure rigid, their training obsessive. Mistakes could happen, but not at this scale, not without leaving clearer evidence behind. And yet the battlefield showed no signs of collapse. Which leads to the second theory. This theory suggests the Persians did not win through force, but through manipulation. False retreats, feigned silence, deliberate gaps meant to lure units forward. According to this view, select Spartan contingents were drawn out of position and isolated, possibly surrounded before others realized what had happened. The idea fits Persian strategy. They were known for patience, intelligence networks, and psychological warfare. But again, there are gaps. Persian records celebrate victories. They name commanders. They count enemies. Yet no Persian source boasts of such a decisive maneuver at Plataea. No trophies. No prisoners mentioned. No confirmation. For an empire that documented everything, the silence is strange. Which brings us to a more uncomfortable explanation. Some historians believe the truth lies within the Greek command itself. Disagreements between allied leaders. Conflicting orders issued too close together. Authority questioned at the wrong moment. In this version, certain Spartan units acted on orders that were later denied or retracted. When the outcome became politically dangerous, responsibility vanished with the paperwork. Supporting this theory is the disappearance of specific commanders from later historical records. Men who should have gone on to prominent roles didn't. But here, too, something doesn't fit. Sparta punished failure openly, harshly, publicly. If mistakes were made, they would have been addressed, not buried. Unless acknowledging them threatened something larger. Which leads to the final and quietest theory. This theory has no official backing. No surviving document supports it directly. It exists only in what was not written. The missing names, the altered numbers, the sudden simplification of accounts. According to this idea, something occurred that commanders could not explain within the language of warfare. Not a defeat, not a victory. Something that disrupted order so completely that recording it would raise more questions than answers. So the event was reduced, then minimized, then absorbed into a broader narrative of success. History prefers coherence, and when coherence is threatened, history edits. No theory fully explains the gaps. No account closes the story. What remains are shadows between the lines, places where facts should be but aren't. And those absences may be the closest thing we have to the truth. History tells us the war ended at Plataea. The Persian threat withdrew. Cities were rebuilt. Greece survived. On the surface, it is a clean ending. A victory with a date attached to it. But clean endings are usually written by survivors. When you examine the records closely, when you slow down and read what isn't emphasized, you begin to notice the omissions. The missing units. The commanders who vanish from later histories. The numbers that never quite add up. Sparta, a society that honored sacrifice above all else, did not build monuments for every loss. But it remembered them. Except here. No poems. No inscriptions. No names carved into stone. Just silence. Perhaps the truth was too confusing. Perhaps it challenged the meaning of discipline, obedience, and control, values Sparta could not afford to question. Or perhaps acknowledging what happened would have reopened a wound Greece needed desperately to close. Wars don't only end when armies withdraw. They end when stories are simplified enough to be told. What happened after the stand of the 300 became legend. What happened after 10,000 answered that legacy became uncomfortable. So the story stopped where it was safest, at victory. But unresolved events do not disappear. They wait. In archives, in footnotes, in gaps between sentences. And every time this battle is retold, those gaps remain, quiet reminders that history is not only shaped by what is remembered, but by what is deliberately left out. So here is the question history never answers, and never asks aloud. When 10,000 Spartans finished the war, the 300 began. What part of the story was never meant to survive? Backhand index pointing down. Share your theory in the comments.